Fantasy Football 2024 Rankings. Models Optimal NFL Week 5 QB WRRB TA. Top Week 5 Fantasy Football QB Rankings. Here's a breakdown of the top quarterbacks for Week 5 in fantasy football, as highlighted by Sportsline. Number 1, Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson has been outstanding for the Ravens, leading them to a 2-game winning streak. In the recent matchup against the Bills, he completed 13 of 18 passes for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also rushing for 54 yards and an additional touchdown. This week, he faces the Cincinnati Bengals, who are allowing 326.8 passing yards per game this season. Number 2, Brock Purdy, San Francisco, 49 years. Despite dealing with back pain last week, Brock Purdy performed well, completing 15 of 27 passes for 288 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception during a 30-13 win against the Patriots. He has thrown for at least 288 yards in his last 3 games and has a favorable matchup this week against the Arizona Cardinals, who just allowed 42 points to the Washington Commanders. Number 3, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen has firmly established himself in the MVP discussion after 4 weeks. He boasts a completion rate of 69.3%, accumulating 814 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Additionally, he has been effective on the ground, with 22 carries for 106 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Top Week 5 Fantasy Football RB Rankings. Here's a look at the leading running backs for Week 5 in fantasy football. Number 1, Derrick Henry, Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry has been a powerhouse for the Ravens, accumulating 80 carries for 480 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns so far this season. In last week's victory over the Bills, he rushed for 199 yards and a touchdown on 24 carries, while also catching all 3 of his targets for an additional 10 yards and another score. Number 2, Jordan Mason, San Francisco, 49 years. Jordan Mason has emerged as a key player in the 49ers offense, while Christian McCaffrey deals with an Achilles injury. Mason has seen at least 19 carries in each game, rushing for 123 yards and a touchdown against the Patriots last week. Expect him to continue receiving a heavy workload when San Francisco takes on the Arizona Cardinals this Sunday. Number 3, Kyren Williams, Los Angeles Rams. Kyren Williams rushed for 94 yards and a touchdown on 19 carries, while also catching 4 passes for 10 yards in the Rams' 24-18 loss to the Bears. He has scored 6 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks and has received at least 18 carries in 3 of those games. Top Week 5 Fantasy Football WR Rankings. Here's a summary of the top wide receivers for Week 5 in fantasy football. Number 1, Deebo Samuel, San Francisco, 49 years. After missing Week 2, Deebo Samuel returned in Week 3 and has consistently performed well, averaging at least 72 scrimmage yards in each of his games. He faces a struggling Arizona defense this Sunday, which ranks in the bottom 8 for points and yards allowed and recently surrendered a season high in passing yards. Number 2, Jayden Reed, Green Bay Packers. Jayden Reed has emerged as a significant receiving threat, accumulating 336 receiving yards, nearly matching the combined total of teammates Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and Christian Watson, who have 353 yards. With Watson sidelined due to an ankle injury, Reed will look to exploit a Rams defense that has allowed the second most receiving touchdowns to wide receivers this season. Number 3, CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb remains among the top 10 in fantasy points for wide receivers, despite not yet having a standout game this season. He faces a tough matchup against the Steelers on Sunday night, but Pittsburgh recently allowed a combined 195 yards and a touchdown to Indianapolis receivers Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. Top Week 5 Fantasy Football TE Rankings. Here's a look at the top tight ends for Week 5 in fantasy football. Number 1, George Kittle, San Francisco, 49 years. George Kittle continues to be one of Brock Purdy's favorite targets, showing reliability with a 94% snap share in the recent victory over the Patriots. He recorded 4 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown last week. Number 2, Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce is coming off a strong performance, recording 7 catches for 89 yards in Kansas City's win over the Chargers. This performance was particularly encouraging for fantasy owners, as he had struggled in the first 3 games, finishing with 34 receiving yards, or fewer in each. Number 3, Brock Bowers, Las Vegas Raiders. Brock Bowers has made a solid impression in his rookie season, catching 20 passes for 216 yards, averaging 10.8 yards per reception. He will aim to score his first touchdown this week as the Raiders face off against the Denver Broncos in an AFC West matchup.